all of us are looking for these big, large explanations for why we're not getting the things that we want in life. We tell ourselves all these grandiose stories when a lot of the truth is right in front of our face. A lot of the things that we need to do to change our lives is right in front of our face, but we ignore those things. Why? Because it's more comfortable to cope. There's a lot of psychological pain involved in telling yourself the truth. In fact, my last video that I shot for this channel is talking about how to be honest with yourself. And, the reason why people aren't honest with themselves is because they kind of have to break that psychological bubble and make a lot of admissions. So in this video, I'm going to go a little bit deeper and talk about some of those admissions that you have to make to change your life. Some of those harsh realizations that you're going to have to go through in order to make a change, to reinvent yourself, to do new things. And I'm going to talk about this a lot from, the perspectives of things that happen in my life and, give you some insights that are going to help you change. But before we get to the video, make sure to use the tools of engagement wherever you are, whatever platform I'm sharing this on, to share with more people who might benefit. So if that's on YouTube, that means subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, because that notification bell is very important. If you're on Instagram, share to your story with your friends, hit the heart emoji, you know the deal. LinkedIn, Facebook, all of the other platforms, we know how to use the internet and share things that we like, so share them. Okay, without further ado, we are going to go into 5 harsh realizations that you might have to make if you want to change your life. Okay, realization number 1 that you might have to make to change your life is that you are unhappy because your life sucks. There's a lot of people, they wonder why they're not happy. They wonder why they're dealing with certain negative emotions, dealing with certain anxieties. I'm certainly no therapist or anything like that, but a lot of things in your life, a lot of depression and moments in your life where you feel like garbage have very clear and tangible signs, right? So there was times where I was not happy. There was times in my life when I was depressed. When I was working at a job for 12 hours a day for $10 an hour at this factory that I hated, I wasn't happy. When I had no money, when I couldn't do any of the things that I wanted to do with my life, I was unhappy. When I was eating garbage food, not working out, treating my body like shit, I wasn't happy. When I knew that there were things I could be doing with my life and I just wasn't doing them, and I lived well below my potential and made a lot of mistakes and screwed a lot of things up, yeah, I wasn't happy. Funny how that works, right? And that we live in this culture that tries to tell you that all the different things in your life that you just have anxiety for no reason. You just have these negative emotions for no reason. And instead of just fixing some of the tangible things in your life that would make your life better so you're happier, they have all sorts of other prescriptions that may or may not work. Maybe they give you pills. Maybe they tell you to go to a therapist and talk and tell them how sad you are, blah, 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 blah. Or maybe you're not supposed to feel good, right? That's one thing that gets lost on a lot of people. Like, who says you're supposed to feel good? Like, if you're not doing the things you're supposed to be doing, if you're not living the life that you're supposed to be living, and you know that, why would you feel good? Why should you feel good? Why is feeling good something that you think you should be granted just because you're a human being, right? So there's a lot of that in our culture. There's a lot of that in our culture that tells you that you should just be happy for absolutely no reason. That you should just be content for absolutely no reason. That you should feel good and practice self-care and pat yourself on the back and get a participation trophy for absolutely no reason. And it's BS. A lot of the times, you need to make some of those tangible changes in your situation so that you can be happier. And until you admit that, you're never going to make those changes. This one is, this one is another one people struggle with because it hits you pretty hard it hits you pretty hard to make this realization about yourself, and it causes a great deal of psychological pain, and a lot of people just don't want to admit it, so they move the blame in other directions. This next realization is that a lot of the outcomes that the reason why you're not getting the outcomes that you want in your life is it's because you're unwilling to do what it takes to get them. You're just not willing to do it, right? Nobody says that the things necessary for you to get said outcome are going to be necessarily fair. There could be an argument to be made that person A starts ahead of the race, and then there's an outcome here, so the path is shorter for person A to get to that outcome. And then you can make an argument that person B is way further behind than person A, and that they're going to have to work twice as hard to reach that same outcome. But that still doesn't negate the truth that person B does not get that outcome simply because they are unwilling to do what it takes to get that outcome. They are unwilling to work twice as hard as person A to get the same outcome as person A. They feel that they shouldn't have to do that. They feel that society is unfair to them. They feel that doing extra work more than they feel they need to do is beneath them. And often it's not even this exact comparison between you, person A, and person B. Like, we all start out at these distinct starting places in life because there's so many different variables that make up a life, from your education to your background, from your parents, from all the different little tiny experiences that you've had in your life to your personality. There's just so many variables that you'd be hard pressed to really make a succinct argument that anyone is objectively better than anyone else when you account for everything adjusted. We all have our advantages and our flaws, and you have to be honest with yourself that and just admit that, like, there's things that you want to do and you weren't willing to do what it took. You just didn't do it. In my case, when it came to college, when it came to me dropping out, I just wasn't willing to do the work. For whatever reason, I got myself into different patterns and I was unwilling to do what it took to be successful. When I was working a crappy job, I was unwilling to take an alternative route. Eventually I became willing to take an alternative route. Eventually I found something that I was willing to work on. There were a lot of different things I tried in my life before I got to writing where I was unwilling to see things all the way through and I didn't get the results. But it turns out, I found something in writing and doing things like shooting videos, creating content, where I am willing to do what it takes to be successful. A lot of different writers ask me the key to success in writing. I'm like, I've been writing for 6 years. I wrote every single day. I practice mercilessly, and that's why I'm successful. And they don't want to hear that answer, and they don't want to do that work, which is fine. But you have to be real with yourself that you're the one in your own way. Don't make excuses that it's someone else. You're just unwilling. Circumstances adjusted. If you don't have the outcomes you want, you're simply unwilling to do what it takes to get them. And in order to get those things, you're going to have to change that equation and become willing to do them. Realization number 3, even when you account for circumstances, your life is primarily heavily influenced by the decisions you make on a day-to-day basis. Most of us live relatively decent circumstances. Maybe you didn't grow up with a silver spoon in your mouth, but if you live in America, you're most likely somewhere in the middle of that bell curve when it comes to your circumstances. So that means that your life is largely a product of your choices. Even if you're in a situation that isn't to your advantage initially, even if there's heavy pressure environmentally to influence you to make certain decisions, your life ultimately still ends up being a consequence of your choices. And people don't want to hear that. People don't want to understand the degree to which their own choices impacts their own life. And maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you're telling yourself a story, right? We're very good at telling ourselves narratives about what we should and shouldn't be doing, what is capable for us, what is fair or not fair. But you have to look at the choices you made. Look at where you're at right now. The job that you have right now, even if you feel like you were pressured to do it as a choice, the situation you have in your relationships with other human beings, largely a product of choices. You decided to interact with and engage with certain people. You decided not to interact with and engage with certain people. Your health, A lot of people don't want to hear this in 2021, but your decision making, what you choose to put in your body and how much and at what intervals you choose to move your body has an impact on your health. Shouldn't be a controversial statement to make, but in some circles it is. And, again, there's just this culture that's moving away from the idea of personal responsibility. It's a very fatalistic attitude, very deterministic attitude where they say, if you're in category X, your destination is default destination Y, when that's entirely untrue. Basically, you can take a lot of different situations and interpretations and make wildly different decisions based on that information. There's the classic example. My father was a criminal. Two sons, their father was a criminal. One said that they had no choice but to become a criminal, and the other son said because of their father they had no choice but to become law enforcement to stop criminals. So same reason, different decision making, different interpretations, and that's a powerful lesson for you to learn when it comes to your own life, your decisions, and the future consequences that happen as a result of them. Another harsh realization that you're gonna have to make if you want to change your life, you have to come to the realization that you have to come to the realization that you're not willing to tolerate mediocrity. It has to become intolerable to you to live in a way that you view is mediocre. Not what I view as mediocre, not what your friends or family think, but what you think is mediocre. It has to become intolerable to you, and you have to be thoroughly dissatisfied enough with your situation to change. And for me, a lot of the things that I saw were not things I could tolerate. There are certain ways of living that I knew long term I would be unable to tolerate. Long term, I knew that I would be unable to tolerate having someone tell me what to do, having someone decide exactly how much money I made every single day, telling me where to be, telling me when I had to show up. Those things were not tolerable for me. Those things were signs of mediocrity for me. Not having a level of financial flexibility to be able to do the things that I wanted to do. Did not tolerate that. Could not permanently find myself in that position. I look at the way that a lot of people live their lives, and again, it's no judgment on them, but for me, just getting less than stellar results. And I realized that I wanted my life to be great. I wanted to do great things. I wanted to have a great impact on other people, and mediocrity just became intolerable to me. I realized, for me, it was a harsh realization that one of the worst hells of them all is to be average. At least when you're just a total abject failure, you're so far away from success that you don't even think about it. You don't even care, right? But there's so many people who they've done a lot of things well. They went through school. They worked hard. They checked off all the boxes. They did pretty good. They did all right. But then you did all that work when all you had to do was shift your perspective or try a different lane or go a little bit above and beyond to get really great results, and you stopped there. That's hell to me. Having to be like an everyday schmuck when you know deep down that you're great, that's worse than just being a failure. So you have to not tolerate that. You have to let that frustrate you enough to inspire yourself into action. And then the last tough realization that I had to make is that time is ticking. The harsh realization that you have to make is that you're not getting any younger. You are going to die. And, it's not something that's just going to motivate you every single second. It's not necessarily going to work every second. The knowledge of your own impending death isn't going to magically motivate you every second, but it is something valuable to keep in the back of your mind so that you don't become one of those people who just lets years, decades of their life go by and look up and say, what the hell happened, right? And for some people, your mortality is a sensitive thing. There's this quote that says that we're immortal in all that we desire and mortal in everything that we fear. We think, we behave as if we're going to live forever, even though time is running out. So that's just something to be cognizant of. And throughout this whole video, all these harsh realizations that I'm sharing with you, they're not meant to hurt you. They're not meant to make you feel bad. They're not meant to depress you. They're actually meant to do the opposite. They're meant to inspire you. There's this quote from Thomas Sowell, and he says, when you care about someone, you tell them, when you want someone to do something, when you're trying to, trick someone, you tell them what they want to hear. But if you actually care about someone, you tell them what they need to know. So that's the goal of this channel, telling you the things that you need to know so that you can be honest with yourself, so that you can be successful. Real Help and an Honest Guide to Self-Improvement. This is a book that is going to help you have a ton of epiphanies and face some harsh realizations about yourself so that you can change. Make sure to grab that. It's in the description below or on other platforms. It's in link in bio. It's posted somewhere. Thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to engage, subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow me on all the social media platforms listed wherever you are, share with your friends, all that good stuff. Had a great time in this video. We'll be coming back with another one shortly, so I will see you on the next video.